My name is Sharon. I met my husband Ryan through a mutual friend. Ryan was a very kind man, and we got married shortly after meeting. Our whirlwind romance led to a marriage just 3 months after we met, shocking our friends and family. But even now, 3 years into our marriage, we're living happily together. However, as with anything, there have been a few challenges. Since our marriage, the most difficult issue for me has been dealing with my mother-in-law. Her house is within walking distance from ours, but unless it's absolutely necessary, I try to avoid visiting. Why? Because she has a way of subtly bullying me when her husband and Ryan can't hear. This started the very first time I met her. When I went to introduce myself to my future in-laws, there was a moment when we ended up alone together. That's when she dropped her voice and asked me, "Sharon dear, where did you go to college?" I wondered if your educational background had anything to do with marriage, but when I told her where I went, she frowned and said, "Oh, I've never heard of it. You must have married Ryan for his money, didn't you?" I was so taken aback that I couldn't respond. I was shocked not only by her sudden, mean-spirited expression when Ryan and her husband weren't around, but also by what she said. Yes, Ryan is a doctor and a Harvard graduate. He probably has a lot of money, but we had decided to keep our finances separate. I had no idea how much money Ryan actually had. I thought it was strange that you got married after only 3 months. Listen here, Ryan is a gem. He's a doctor who graduated from Harvard. That's a big deal. Compared to that, I've never heard of your college. You must have gone to some third-rate university. If you married Ryan for his money, you should end it right now. I didn't marry him for his money. I truly want to be with Ryan. That's why I wanted to get married. Liar. You look like a fool. Can't bear the thought of someone like you having Ryan's child. Can you imagine a child with your stupid genes? The child would be pitiful, especially after I gave birth to such a smart son like Ryan. Don't worry, Ryan and I have decided not to have children. Ryan and I are both career-oriented. We're proud of our work, and when we decided to get married, we agreed not to have children. Despite her irritating comments, I managed to keep my anger in check and tell her our decision, which seemed to take her by surprise. "What?" she exclaimed, her eyes wide open. After a moment of stunned silence, she glared at me. "So, you're infertile, right?" "No, that's not it. We just decided not to have children." "Lies! It's unheard of for a married couple not to have children if they can. Ugh, why did Ryan decide to marry a woman like you? His life was perfect until now." In response to her lament, I found myself speechless. That's when I remembered Ryan confessing, during a family discussion, "Honestly, I don't really like my mom." Mother-in-law had always been more concerned about Ryan's education and career, rather than Ryan himself. Even then, mother-in-law was about to say something else, but as soon as father-in-law returned, she promptly switched back to her amiable self. When she said, "It's a pleasure to have a beauty like you, Sharon, in our home," with the same mouth she just used to insult me, it gave me the creeps. This mother-in-law, who plays the good wife and mother in front of father-in-law and Ryan, had been wearing this mask since marrying father-in-law. Although she seemed devilish, since mother-in-law kept her opposition to the marriage hidden, but remained cordial in public, Ryan and I were able to get married without a hitch. Even now, 3 years into our marriage, mother-in-law continues to secretly harass me. She had been bad-mouthing me to the neighbors, so when I went to the in-laws' house for some business, it deeply bothered me to see the neighboring ladies whispering about me. There was also a time when I went to visit mother-in-law because she was reportedly unwell, only to find her fit as a fiddle, using the absence of father-in-law and Ryan as an opportunity to lay into me. She went on and on, saying things like, "Isn't it sad for Ryan to live with a fool like you, Sharon? I've heard that when the IQ gap is too great, conversation becomes impossible. Can you two even communicate? I remember Ryan saying he didn't want kids. Are you infertile, or does Ryan not want to pass on your foolish genes? Either way, poor Ryan for marrying you, but the one I feel sorry for the most would be any child who gets those dumb genes. Good for you, Sharon, for being infertile. You always looked like a fool to me since we first met. It's embarrassing to think that someone like you is my daughter-in-law. Please lower your face when walking around the neighborhood. It's disgraceful. Though I was quite irritated, I held my tongue and listened without retort. Not because I was a timid wife, but because I was waiting for the right time. The moment I was waiting for was mother-in-law's birthday. Every year on her own birthday, mother-in-law invites me and Ryan to her house and cooks for us. When is my birthday? It's not too much to ask for a meal together as a family, is it? It would be hard for her son Ryan to decline. We've been invited for meals on mother-in-law's birthday every year, this being the third time. For the first and second birthday celebrations, I thought, it's not fair to Ryan and father-in-law to put up with mother-in-law's behavior. I can handle it on my own. But my patience, which isn't particularly enduring, had reached its limit. At this year's birthday meal, just as we were enjoying the usual meal and chatting casually with drinks in hand, I took out my phone with a smile. Excuse me for springing this on you, but I've decided that today will be the last time I come here. Everyone was taken aback by what I said, feeling a bit guilty for shocking not just mother-in-law but father-in-law and Ryan too. I continued. Actually, I've been receiving quite a lot of nasty comments from mother-in-law behind my back, and I simply can't bear it anymore. Just seeing her face has been giving me hives recently. The stress is too much, so I've decided not to come to this house anymore. My father-in-law asked my mother-in-law, "Did you really say something?" Caught off guard, she quickly shook her head. "I didn't say anything." "I didn't say anything at all. Is it possible you misunderstood something, Sharon?" She plastered on her usual smile, but her eyes didn't share the sentiment. I felt the pressure from her to keep silent, but I had no reason to comply. I reached for my phone lying on the table and played an audio recording. "You, with no education, being the wife? It's unbearable. Day in, day out, the thought of you as the wife sends chills down my spine and brings nightmares." At the sound of the tirade coming from my phone, my father-in-law and Ryan were stupefied, while she turned as pale as a ghost. One after another, I played her hurtful words from my phone. I had been silently recording her tirades, waiting for the perfect moment to use them. Why the woman who can't even have children staying at home? Go outside and work for a change. You claim to work from home, but that's a lie, isn't it? Living off Ryan's money, you're nothing but a leech. Hey, Mom. The one who finally spoke up amidst the relentless stream of hurtful words was Ryan, his face as red as a beet. Why are you saying such terrible things to Sharon? And to think you said all this where Dad and I couldn't hear? That's just too devious. No, it's not true. It's all lies. Lies? With all this evidence, you think we're going to believe your excuses now? Faced with the anger of her beloved son, she seemed lost and confused, repeating over and over like a broken record. It's not true. It's all lies. In his rage, Ryan said to her, "You've been going on about education and calling Sharon stupid, but she's a Harvard graduate, just like me." What? She seemed so shocked she might topple over. But it's true. I'm a Harvard graduate. Well, when I asked Sharon about her college, she mentioned some university I've never heard of, she began. And I decided to use this opportunity to retaliate for all the times I'd remained silent. I attended a university in Japan because I wanted to further my Japanese studies after graduating from Harvard. It seems like you were unaware. Well, if that's the case, why didn't you say so? Even if I had told you that I graduated from Harvard, you were going to badger me about being infertile. Whether I retorted or not, if you were just going to keep criticizing me, I saw no point in defending myself. Also, you seem to think I was idling around at home, but I've been working all along." As I spoke, I pulled out a thick book from my bag. This was a book I'd decided to bring along today, despite its weight. Seeing her dumbfounded expression made me feel it was all worth it. It's sold in bookstores. Yes, it's a bestseller and will soon be adapted into a movie. The book is written by a Japanese author, and I'm the one who translated it. She had refused to believe I was working from home, but I've been a translator all along. Thankfully, I've received work from various places, and if you search my pen name online, you'll find numerous articles. I'm a fairly well-known translator. Seeing mother-in-law with her mouth agape, father-in-law, who had been silent for a while, softly spoke up. "Mother, there's something you need to say to Sharon." "Huh?" "He means you need to apologize. I had no idea you could say such horrible things behind someone's back. Sharon, I'm sorry for not realizing this sooner. You must have had a hard time. Now, Mother, you should apologize too." Despite the fact that father-in-law, who did nothing wrong, was the first to apologize, prideful mother-in-law raised her shrill voice. "No way! After all, I didn't know. I didn't know that Sharon was a Harvard graduate, or such a prominent translator. If I had known, I would have never said such awful things. Regardless of who Sharon is, she's the woman that Ryan chose. You should be treating her with respect. Education and career don't matter. If Sharon treats Ryan well, as parents, we should have no complaints." Mother-in-law, Ryan, and I were all taken aback by the usually quiet and gentle father-in-law's angry voice. Father-in-law glared at mother-in-law and urged her once more, "Apologize." But mother-in-law, who would not bow to a daughter-in-law, declared, "I've done nothing wrong," and retreated to her room. "Go home for today. Sharon, I'm truly sorry." After father-in-law said this, Ryan and I decided to go home. When I apologized to Ryan for causing the situation, he replied, "I'm sorry for making you endure this." I realized once again what a wonderful husband I have. That evening, the intercom rang insistently. When I went outside, a sobbing mother-in-law was hunched over, continuously bowing her head. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Tell Dad to forgive me too, please." What happened?" Just as I was recoiling from mother-in-law's pitiful state, father-in-law came running over, trying to get mother-in-law to stand up by saying, "Stop it! It's disgraceful!" Before the shocked us, mother-in-law said, "Stop! I can't go home until I'm forgiven," and then uttered a shocking phrase. "If I'm not forgiven, Dad will abandon me." A sighing father-in-law explained the situation. He had become disillusioned after seeing the true nature of mother-in-law, with whom he had spent many years. When mother-in-law persistently refused to apologize to me, father-in-law had told her, "I didn't think you were like this. I don't have the confidence to continue living with you." That's why a crying mother-in-law had rushed over to our house. "Sorry for causing a commotion. I'll take Mom home. Sharon, I'm truly sorry. Ryan, I'll contact you later about what will happen between Mom and Dad." "Alright." "No! No!" As father-in-law forcefully took away the childishly protesting mother-in-law, Ryan, watching their retreating backs, had an expression of mixed disbelief and sadness. I found myself in a similar situation, seeing my mother-in-law shrink away. My in-laws fought for several months after that, but in the end, they divorced. My mother-in-law moved out of the house, apparently relocating to a small town in the countryside using the money she got from her ex-husband. Their squabbles could be heard all over the neighborhood. Whenever I passed by, the same local woman who had given me cold stares asked me what had happened to that house. I dismissed them briskly, saying, "I don't know. I'm not obligated to provide gossip for their chit-chat." My father-in-law has been living independently since his divorce from my mother-in-law. He once told me, "I was fooled by her in so many ways for such a long time." Perhaps she had been hiding many things from him, not just the fact that she was bullying me behind my back. Ryan accepted his parents' divorce right away. Ryan even expressed sympathy for his father, saying, "I can't live with a person who can say such things to others." My mother-in-law tried to contact Ryan several times, but in the end, he blocked her number. He was tired of her constantly warning him not to be deceived by me every time she called. Having been abandoned by her husband and son, my mother-in-law is now renting a small room in a far-off town. She once told Ryan that she felt lonely in an unfamiliar place without any acquaintances, but Ryan dismissed it, saying, "It's your own fault that it's come to this." As for me, with my only problem, my relationship with my mother-in-law, now out of the picture, I feel a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I continue to live a happy life with my kind husband, Ryan.